Wonderful. Thank you so much, Patrika. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Vernon Johnson. I'm super excited to be here with you all today and sharing some things around diversity and inclusion and infusion into technology and innovation and ideation, which all definitely goes hand in hand. So I'm going to go ahead and share my presentation here and go ahead and get us started. So again, my name is Vernon Johnson, and diversity and inclusion for me has been more so an opportunistic career pathway than a planned one. And sometimes you have people who, they say they're going to be a doctor, they go to school to be a doctor, and thus they become a doctor, right? And then you have people like myself who go to school for healthcare management, go and get your master's in public health, and then get your doctorate in organizational leadership with very much HR in mind. And so, everyone's career path is different. And I would just say that mine has definitely been more fueled by my passions around healthcare, youth development, and diversity and inclusion really being the common denominator of all those different experiences. Recently, I came on board to Brookfield Properties, which is a worldwide real estate organization, and very much thrilled and honored and privileged to be a part of the organization. I was bought on at the onset of the very volatile year that we had in 2020, not only with COVID-19 happening, but also social injustice and racial unrest happening throughout our country. And so it really was a defining moment, not only for me as a professional, but I think for the entire country and world, that racism, social injustice, systematic oppression are things that organizations need to address now and going forward. And the thing is that we have to recognize that organizations are these pillars in communities that really help, that can really help to thrive and push the needle forward. And what I mean by that is that, we have gone, when we think about our workforces, for example, we have gone from very much a strength-based economy where, your worth was predicated on how strong you were in terms of the work output. Then it moved to more of a knowledge-based economy, which I believe that we're still in. And I think we're moving towards a different arena, which is an emotionally intelligent workforce, where people really want to have psychological safety in the workplace as a means of bringing their authentic and best selves to work and being productive. Because what people are doing and saying is that if you don't have diversity and inclusion at your organization, if you're not taking it serious, I'm not going to come and work at that organization, right? They're going to go elsewhere. And people really are leaving organizations and are losing top talent because of that. And when you have people who leave, especially from diverse backgrounds, you're losing innovation and ideas and creativity for your organization, which is so key and important for companies and for our society, period. So what I'm going to kind of talk about here today is a few things, really just kind of diving into diversity and inclusion as a whole, talk about some of the things that we're kind of doing on our end, and then really looking at the current climate of things and some things in the workplace that really impact employees. And I'll kind of talk about some of the other things that we're doing programmatically. So what I would love for everyone to do is to think about a high school dance that you attended, whether it be homecoming, turnabout, prom, some type of social, whatever it may have been. And I want you to think about, the fun that you had at that dance, right? Did you go out there and actually dance? Did you go with your friends? I really want you to think about that, right? And I really love this analogy by Brene Myers, who is actually one of my mentors, and she's the current head of diversity and inclusion at Netflix. And I had the privilege of working with her at my previous organization on a diversity and inclusion event for our employees. And she has this quote, which is diversity is going to the dance and inclusion is being asked to dance. So it's not just enough for me to go and be present, but I also need to be a part of the mix. I need to be engaged, involved, and have a good time just like everyone else. And I think with that type of mindset, we can truly build out an inclusive workforce and an inclusive environment for people so that they can feel respected, connected, and valued and able to bring their authentic selves. And it really starts in how we define diversity and inclusion. And I think we have oftentimes heard of all the different terms and things like that. And I think people group things together and they don't really understand that diversity and inclusion is really a journey. And diversity is really about the mix, and inclusion is making the mix work. So when you think about the diversity, we think about all of the differences of who we are. Simply stated, everyone is unique. And inclusion, creating the environment where everyone feels respected, connected, a sense of belonging, valued, and able to bring their authentic selves to work to better serve our business. Essentially, everyone's contributions are valued. So we don't want to disregard people. We don't want to make people feel small or inadequate or that their ideas don't matter. We want to be able to bring that to the forefront and have a discussion around it and bring that forward because that is really inherent and puts the organization at a competitive advantage by having those insights being taken into account. And at Brookfield, we really wanted to establish a strategy as well around our diversity and inclusion efforts. And we've really kind of put them in these three different buckets. Inclusive culture. So there we really think about our computer-based trainings. We think about our employee resource group program, where people with different affinities can get together and be able to share things around culture, community, commerce, and career. And really bring forward the authenticity of that organization or of that ERG to the organization as a valuable asset. Diverse teams. How do we recruit for diverse talent into the organization? This is so important, and you have to have a strategy that really focuses on two things. One, ready now talent, so the current acquisitions that you're bringing into your organization, and then future talent. How are you really preparing, the future talent engine of the future with your talent efforts in terms of internships, in terms of keeping candidates warm and engaging them later on? All those different things are important. And then you think about the diverse strategic partnerships that align with those different affinity groups to really bring in a diverse workforce. And then diverse talent brand. How are you perceived out by candidates in terms of your diversity and inclusion efforts? This is really important, especially when it comes to social media, your career websites. When you think about the images, do you have an adequate look into your workforce in terms of its diversity? And if not, those are things that you have to rectify because people will go onto those different sites and see what you're about. And if they're not really diverse, they may not feel like there's a place for them. So this is a really cool thing that we have done, or an example of kind of the diverse talent brand, which is LinkedIn background images. So we have a diverse subset of employees in the background. And it's pretty cool. We have one here where they have the mask on, which might be our new normal and going forward. But it's really just a great way to remind folks that we're one, as well as to showcase the folks that we really do value diversity and inclusion in our organization, and we are advocates of that. Another aspect of learning that we're doing is a D&I Ally and Learn series. And what we'll be doing is showcasing these different documentaries. So the first one being Alzheimer's, a love story that focuses on a Chicago gay married couple. And one of the gentlemen's, his husband is suffering from Alzheimer's, and it goes through the journey of that experience. Now, why that's important is because we really understand the intersectionality that is taking place here of gender, of, being a caretaker, in all those different aspects, also being older, and really looking into depth into that. And really, it's meant to charge these three different areas of empathy, curiosity, connection, and then having a courageous conversation where people really can bring out the value and learn a lot more. So this just kind of brings us all to what is going on in our current climate here today. And we really have to think about these different areas, right? And I love this example of this cartoon where this gentleman has regular anxiety. He's given COVID anxiety. And then, with the elections last year, he had election anxiety, and then all these other different anxieties and different things that are happening in the world that really become overwhelming for a lot of folks. And when we think about that, we have to think about our employees in terms of the different things that they are facing and how we can help to alleviate that. So America's in turmoil, and there's a lot of different things that have happened that I mentioned earlier from last year that are still going on. A quick note on COVID-19. The disparities in deaths have traumatically impacted the African American Latino communities, which is something that has not been talked about as much. And that is just something added on to the structural inequality and broader systematic racism that our society is facing. Also, there's high levels of unemployment, and we have to really realize that the caveat here is that there will be a huge pool of talent for a lot of organizations to pull from. So it's really a great opportunity for organizations to focus on bringing diverse talent into their organizations post this pandemic. And then, of course, in recent memory, the January 6th desecration of the United States Capitol, which this image of, these images I never thought we would ever see in our lifetime, and unfortunately, we did. So this just kind of brings us back to this idea of what is going on in the workplace. And this is just an example here from Catalyst, and a woman who gave her testimony, which basically she says that, hey, I have to basically stay on my on my P's and Q's in the workplace, and I cannot afford to slip up or fail, because if I do, it could be the end of me at this organization. An added pressure that a lot of people of color, in particular Black women, can feel in the workplace, which is just really this added pressure, this added culture of perfection and things of that nature, that really can be detrimental. Here we have an example of a Pakistani Muslim woman who was being judged, who finally just resigned from the workplace because it was just too much added pressure, and just a lack of respect. And so, it's really telling, when you have real people giving these testimonies of different situations that they've been facing in the workplace around unconscious and implicit bias that is taking part. So at our organization, we started a D&I employee advisory group, and this started, at the onset of the murder of George Floyd, which happened on May 25th of 2020, where employees just said, you know what, we have to do something. We need a permanent resource around diversity and inclusion. We need ERG groups, and we need to have diversity and inclusion integrated into the organization so that every corner of the organization that you go, diversity and inclusion is there. And that is where I kind of came on board to really help the organization progress, and really reveal this throughout the organization. So our employee resource group, we have 8 employee resource groups at the organization currently. And really they're to ensure that they're aligned to business goals. And we operate under a framework, which I think is really important for organizations to do, because it really provides the guidance for the different events that the ERGs do. So this framework was discovered by Dr. Robert Rodriguez, who's a business psychologist, and he basically coined out these 4 C's of culture, where essentially the ERG would educate employees about that particular dimension of diversity. Career, provide professional development opportunities for members of the ERG, as well as assist HR in their talent outreach efforts. Community, giving back to community, especially if that community revolves around that particular dimension of diversity, i.e., we have a veterans group, and they, are looking to give back to veteran centers and veteran homeless shelters and things of that nature. Commerce is really about supporting the already company approved and driven initiatives that are currently in play. And so those, basically you would have ERG members who would pub those different things and really get those things out across to the community. So one of the things that we really needed to implement when I got on board was really a structure around our diversity and inclusion efforts. So for the ERG program in particular, we planned out these different roles where we had an executive sponsor, we had myself, we had chairperson, vice chair, and secretary, which are employee volunteered roles and positions. And what's great about this is that having executive sponsors are elemental to this, because what they do is they provide kind of a microphone to their organizations and to the rest of the organization when these different ERG events are happening throughout the year, which is super important. And then having this, the chair, vice chair, secretary is important because they really help to formulate those different events, lead committees, really begin to have those conversations to plan around their particular activities. And what we've done for each of the ERGs is have them to adopt the Heritage Month so that they can go ahead and do an event or two during that month. And what happens is from all the way from Black History Month down to Native American History Month, you have all these different events happening by the ERGs throughout the entire year, and you're basically having this ongoing diversity and inclusion programming, which is wonderful to see. We also implemented a SharePoint site internally that has all of our D&I programs in there and information. It's important that people have technology resource to go to. We also leverage Microsoft Teams in order to do that as well, so that the different ERGs can communicate to one another, which is super important. And really at the heart of this is, innovation, ideation, and really leveraging that to really bring us to a new space and new frontier. And what I mean by that is that, one of the things that we've always talked about is, leveraging design thinking in particular as a means of a universal diversity inclusion, organizational way to solve issues and challenges. So as many know, design thinking leverages the art of empathy as a means of helping to solve issues that folks in the IT realm may be experiencing. But I believe everyone can leverage that. So to give you a quick example, we have a internship program called Accelerate, where we employ college students, community college students into our organization. And so before we had a GPA requirement and things like that, and we wanted to get some feedback post the internship from those students. And one of the bits of feedback that they gave us was that, they would love to recommend the program to some of their peers, but felt like they wouldn't be good candidates because we had kind of a high GPA requirement. So we actually went back, did some research, collaborated with those folks who gave us that feedback. And we actually changed our GPA requirement to say, just in good standing, so we got rid of the 3.2 or 3.3 or whatever we had on there and just said, we would like for you to be in good standing. And what that does is it promotes a more inclusive, requirement so that students can feel more at ease and be able to, be a part of this internship and not have to worry about, a GPA requirement that may not be telling of their character and just who they are as a person. So really excited by leveraging design thinking as a means of really, employing kind of an organizational way to tackle challenges and issues for the company. So like I mentioned, we have 8 ERGs. So we have HERD, which focuses on Hispanic Latinx employees, our Pride Network, our Engaging Intergenerational Team. So this is a group that really focuses on the intergenerational workplace, which is something that a lot of organizations may not pay attention to as much because it's not a phenotypical characteristic where basically you kind of see something and you are kind of applying that to a certain group. So this is great because within the next 10 years, our workforce is going to be completely integrated with Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, and so forth. And so it's really important to know some of the characteristics of those different generational groups and to really harvest that talent so that you can really create a cohesive workplace. Ability focuses on disability inclusion for the workplace. Brookfield Black Professionals, Heart, helping Asian Americans reach togetherness, Brookfield Women's Network, and then Supporters of Military Families and Veterans. All wonderful groups and really important, especially when we think about that 4C model in terms of really harnessing an inclusive environment for everyone. So these are just some business objectives. We want to make sure that we have business integration, employee engagement, communication, brand outreach, and professional development. So it's really about ensuring that resources are paid attention to those internally, and then that helps us to invest and do so externally as well. We really feel like diversity and inclusion is really about managing, two different core things of information and people. And it's really about, making better heads, hearts, and hands in terms of the different work that we do and the relationships that we have both internally and externally, and ensuring that we have success all around. So I just wanted to showcase the different heritage months here this year, so you can kind of see how the programming is kind of done here. So each ERG would adopt one of these months, and then they would do 1 to 2 events during the month. And then for some of the groups who don't have a heritage month, such as the Engaging Intergenerational Teams group, they would go ahead and adopt a month that has an NA next to it and do their programming for that selected month. So without further ado, I just would love to thank you for your time here today. This has been wonderful, and I hope that this presentation and some of the thoughts that I shared are helpful for you and your organization. Thank you.